We've got, looks like government reports, some academic papers, and even, wow, some excerpts from ancient Tamil literature.
Yeah, this is great. Should give us like a really well-rounded view.
It really does. So our mission here is to sort of go beyond just summarizing everything and pull out the really insightful stuff,
Definitely.
What are those aha moments, the things that really help us understand this civilization and its place in history?
Exactly. Like, one of the first things that jumped out at me is just how important the Porunai River itself was to this civilization. It wasn't just water, it was like this source of life, prosperity, even identity.
I see that. One of the sources describes it as a flowing river of gold, enriching this area, which is just such a powerful image, right?
Yeah.
It really sets the stage for understanding why this civilization flourished where it did.
Absolutely. And along the banks of this river, that's where we find like all these key archaeological sites.
Okay.
Like Korkai, Adichanallur, Sivagalai. It's like each one's a piece of a puzzle, helping us understand the bigger picture.
Okay, let's start with Korkai then. A lot of these sources refer to the Porunai River civilization as the cradle of South Indian history.
Right.
And it seems like Korkai is a big reason for that.
It is. Korkai was the ancient capital of the Pandyan dynasty, and they were like a major power in South India for centuries.
Okay.
And we're not just talking about legends here.
Yeah.
We have actual accounts from Tamil epics, Greek historians like Ptolemy, even Roman texts like the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea that mention the Pandyas and how wealthy they were.
So this wasn't some, isolated civilization.
No.
They were connected to the wider world, trading with empires across the sea. That's amazing.
It is. And those trade connections, they help explain why the Pandyas were so wealthy, right?
Oh, okay.
One of their most prized commodities was pearls.
Oh, wow.
And they harvested these from the Porunai River. There's a beautiful line in a Sangam-era poem. It describes these pearls as guarded as righteous duty by the valiant Pandyas.
Wow, pearls guarded as a sacred duty.
Yeah.
That says a lot about how much they valued them.
Absolutely.
But it wasn't just about wealth, right?
Right.
Korkai was also a center of culture and learning.
Yes.
One source mentions the second Sangam. It was a Tamil literary academy.
Yes.
And it flourished in Korkai.
Yeah.
They attracted scholars and poets from all over.
That's a great point. The fact that there was a literary academy tells us this was a sophisticated society.
Yeah.
They really valued knowledge and creativity. It wasn't just about, conquering territory. It was about cultivating the arts and preserving their traditions.
And speaking of preserving traditions, there's something really striking about how the Pandyan kings identified themselves. They used titles like Korkai Kuman, which literally means king of Korkai.
That's so fascinating, isn't it? Their
Yeah.
identity was like totally intertwined with their capital city.
Yeah.
It suggests that Korkai wasn't just a seat of power, it was like a symbol of their culture and legacy.
Yeah. It's like they were saying, we are the Pandyas and this is our city, Korkai, the heart of our civilization.
Exactly.
But what about evidence of all this international trade?
Yeah.
Is it just mentioned in these texts, or is there archaeological proof too?
There is. Foreign coins have been discovered in Korkai. And scholars like Maloney and Loventhal, they've studied these coins extensively. And these coins, they provide tangible proof that the Pandyas were connected to this vast trade network.
Right.
It extended all the way to the Roman Empire.
So we've got this powerful dynasty, a rich cultural center, and evidence of international trade, all centered around Korkai. It's really starting to paint a picture of a thriving civilization.
It is, but Korkai is just one piece of the puzzle, right? To get a more complete understanding, we need to explore some of the other sites along the Porunai River. Let's shift our focus now to Adichanallur.
Okay.
This site, it really takes us on a deep dive into the past.
Ooh, Adichanallur sounds fascinating. And I'm particularly intrigued by the sources that describe the burial practices they uncovered there.
Yeah.
It seems like we're about to learn a lot about their beliefs and rituals surrounding death.
You're right. The burials at Adichanallur, they offer this incredible window into their worldview. Like, imagine this. Archaeologists found urns packed with bronze bowls, utensils, vases, animal figurines, jewelry, beads, even human bones.
Wow.
All together.
It sounds like they believed in equipping the deceased for a journey into the afterlife. But it's more than just the objects themselves, right?
Right.
It's the craftsmanship, the level of skill that really stands out.
Absolutely.
One source mentions diadems, designed to be folded or rolled up,
Yeah.
which suggests some pretty advanced metalworking skills.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just the metalworking. There are also like connections to other ancient civilizations.
Okay.
Like some of the female figurines they found at Adichanallur.
Yeah.
They actually bear striking similarities to those discovered in the Indus Valley civilization.
Wow, that's incredible. It suggests some level of contact or like shared artistic traditions across vast distances, right?
It really does.
And speaking of artistry, I was reading about those dotted decorations on the terracotta pots they found at Adichanallur. It sounds like they used a very specific technique.
Yeah, those dots were, they were created by impressing the pots with a sharp iron implement before firing them. It shows real skill and precision.
Wait, you said an iron implement? Isn't that pretty advanced for this period?
It is.
I thought most civilizations were still using bronze tools at this time.
You're right to question that, and this is where things start to get really interesting. The use of iron tools at Adichanallur, it's a clue that this civilization might have been ahead of the game, you know,
Oh, okay.
further along in their metallurgical development than we initially thought.
So we're seeing a pattern here, right?
Yeah.
A complex society, advanced craftsmanship, a connection to other civilizations, and possibly even like early adoption of iron technology.
Yeah.
It seems like the Porunai River civilization was a real hub of innovation and cultural exchange.
It's a fascinating story, and you know, we're only just starting to really uncover it. But before we dive deeper into the mystery of iron in Tamil Nadu, let's explore another important site
Okay.
along the Porunai River, Sivagalai.
Sivagalai. Okay, what kind of insights does this site offer into the Porunai River civilization?
Well, Sivagalai, it gives us a glimpse into their everyday lives.
Yeah.
You know, how they master different crafts and also their enduring agricultural practices. For example, the excavations there, they've uncovered like remnants of a shell bangle making industry.
Shell bangles. That sounds like they were quite skilled at working with natural materials.
They were. And speaking of crafts, they also found black and red ware pottery at Sivagalai.
Okay.
And this type of pottery, it's found in other Iron Age settlements in the region. So it kind of helps us connect Sivagalai to that broader cultural landscape.
So it's not just about the objects themselves, it's about understanding how those objects connect to the bigger picture.
Exactly.
It's like each artifact is a clue, helping us piece together the story of this civilization.
Exactly. And one of the most exciting clues from Sivagalai comes from, well, a rather unexpected source.
Paddy.
Paddy, you mean rice. What's so exciting about finding rice at an archaeological site?
Well, this paddy they found at Sivagalai has been carbon dated back to 1155 BCE.
Wow. So agriculture was already well established in this region over 3,000 years ago.
It is.
That's incredible. It tells us they had developed really sophisticated agricultural techniques to support their growing settlements. And it also reinforces that idea that this was a civilization that truly thrived on the bounty of the Porunai River.
So we've got evidence of craft production, a connection to other Iron Age settlements, and long-standing agricultural practices. It seems like Sivagalai is adding another layer to our understanding of just how complex this civilization really was. But wait, there's one more source here that mentions a really intriguing discovery at Sivagalai, potsherds bearing Tamil Brahmi script.
Ah, yes. Those potsherds are really important. They hint at something quite remarkable: early literacy.
Okay, hold on. What exactly is Tamil Brahmi script, and why is it so important for understanding literacy?
Well, Tamil Brahmi is one of the earliest writing systems they used to write the Tamil language. And it's derived from the Brahmi script, which was used in ancient India for centuries. Finding it on these potsherds at Sivagalai suggests that literacy wasn't just, limited to the elite or religious context. It was present in their everyday life.
That's fascinating. It challenges this assumption that writing was only used for official documents or religious texts. It suggests a much more widespread use of writing.
Exactly. It opens up all these questions about their intellectual life, their communication, their ability to record history even.
So we've got these two incredible sites, right?
Yeah.
Adichanallur with its elaborate burials,
Yes.
early iron tools,
Right.
and Sivagalai with its evidence of crafts, agriculture, and even writing. But now we got to switch gears a little bit and talk about another important location, Keeladi.
Okay.
And it's located on a tributary of the Porunai River.
That's a great transition.
No,
Keeladi, it's on the banks of the Vaigai River, and it really provides compelling evidence of a sophisticated urban settlement. dating back to the Sangam Age.
Urban life during the Sangam Age.
Sure.
Okay, this sounds like we're about to uncover some remarkable finds. What makes Keeladi so special?
Well, the Keeladi excavations, they've been groundbreaking. They've revealed structural remains like brick structures, terracotta ring wells, and even roofing tiles with drainage systems.
Whoa, so these aren't just scattered settlements. We're talking about urban planning and infrastructure.
Exactly. And it's not just structures. They found tons of artifacts that point to a thriving weaving industry.
Really?
Think like numerous spindle whorls, specialized bone tools for making designs, even hanging stones used for yarn.
Wow. So they had a whole system for textile production.
Yes.
It's incredible to think about the level of specialization and skill that they possessed.
Yeah.
They weren't just meeting basic needs. They were creating beautiful and intricate textiles.
You're absolutely right. And there's even evidence of a dyeing industry, so they were adding color and making their fabrics more vibrant.
Wow. This is all painting a picture of like a bustling urban center with specialized industries and skilled artisans. Wait, there's more, right? What other industries were present in Keeladi?
Oh, yeah. They also found evidence of really advanced pottery production.
Okay.
They discovered heaps of pottery, which suggests a specialized industry. And the techniques they used, things like black and red ware with white paintings, just show their incredible skill and sophistication.
They were clearly masters of their craft.
Mm.
But did they uncover any signs of like luxury or trade in Keeladi?
Mhm.
I'm curious to know if this urban center was connected to the wider world like Korkai was.
Oh, absolutely. The presence of jewelry and luxury items like gold ornaments, copper articles, beads of semi-precious stones and glass, ivory combs and bangles, it all speaks volumes about their economic prosperity and, their potential trade connections.
Wow, so Keeladi is really giving us a glimpse into this thriving urban center
It is.
with specialized industries, advanced technology, and evidence of trade. It's like a microcosm of everything we've learned so far about the Porunai River civilization. But what I'm really dying to know is, what was daily life like for the people who live there? I mean, what did they do for fun? Did they have games? What did they eat? I just want to get a sense of what it was actually like to live in this ancient city.
You're asking all the right questions. Thankfully, the archaeological evidence gives us a really detailed picture of life in ancient Keeladi. We're about to step back in time and experience what it was like to, live, work, and play in this fascinating urban center.
Okay, so we've got this bustling city, Keeladi, and we're starting to get a sense of their industries and trade. But what about the people, right? What can we learn about their daily lives?
Well, it seems like life in ancient Keeladi was a balance of work and play. The archaeological evidence shows that agriculture was still a major part of their lives. But as we've seen, they also had specialized craftspeople, artisans, and even industries like, ironworking and carpentry.
So a pretty diverse economy. But they weren't just working all the time, right?
Yeah.
The sources mentioned something about games being found at Keeladi.
That's right. They weren't just all work and no play. They definitely made time for leisure and fun. Archaeologists have found things like dice, gamesmen made of terracotta, and even hopscotches.
Hopscotches? You mean like the children's game? That's amazing. It makes you realize that these people weren't so different from us, They enjoyed playing games just like we do today.
It's a great point. It really humanizes them. Even though we're talking of this ancient civilization, they were still human beings with the same basic desires for fun and connection. And what's really fascinating is that one of the sources mentions a game called Pai or Notiviatu, which is still played today in parts of Tamil Nadu.
Wait, so they might have been playing like a version of hopscotch that's still around today. That's incredible.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what other traditions or practices might have, survived through the ages.
It really does. And it just speaks to the enduring nature of culture, how certain games and traditions can just transcend time.
Okay, so they were farming, crafting, trading, even playing games.
Yeah.
But were they only interacting within their own city? Or did they have, connections to other parts of India?
There's definitely evidence of trade networks that spanned vast distances. For instance, at Keeladi, they found agate and carnelian beads, and those materials we know originated in northwest India.
So they were definitely trading with other regions. What's fascinating is that one of the sources mentioned something about pottery, initially thought to be Roman, being found at Keeladi.
Yes. It's called rouletted ware, and it was initially thought to be evidence of Roman trade reaching all the way to South India. But further research has actually shown that this particular type of rouletted ware was actually made locally using Indian clay.
So they were imitating Roman styles. That's so interesting. It suggests that they were aware of trends and styles from other parts of the world and weren't afraid to, incorporate them into their own traditions.
Exactly. Shows how adaptable they were and open to new ideas. It's another reminder that even in ancient times, the world was more interconnected than we might think.
So we've uncovered evidence of agriculture, crafts, trade, games, and even cultural exchange. It's really starting to feel like we're getting a sense of what it was like to live in Keeladi. But there's one more piece of the puzzle that we haven't fully explored yet. Iron.
Yes. The mystery of iron in Tamil Nadu. This is where things get really interesting.
Okay, lay it on me. What's so special about their ironwork? The sources kept hinting that they were ahead of their time, but I'm not sure I fully grasped the significance.
It boils down to this. The evidence we're seeing really challenges those long-held beliefs about how iron technology spread around the world. For a long time, historians thought it originated in one place and then it slowly diffused outwards. But the discoveries in Tamil Nadu are painting a much more complex picture.
Okay, so the old theory's out the window. What's the new thinking?
Well, now there's this growing body of evidence that suggests that iron technology may have developed independently in multiple regions around the globe. And the Porunai River civilization, with its iron artifacts dating back to the 3rd millennium BCE, is right at the forefront of this new understanding.
So they weren't just using iron, they were potentially some of the first people on the planet to figure out how to smelt it, how to craft it into tools and weapons.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal.
It really is. It rewrites our understanding of ancient metallurgy.
Yeah.
And it puts the Porunai River civilization on the map as a potential center of innovation.
So we know they were using iron, and we know it was early, but what kind of objects were they making? Did they have like a sophisticated understanding of ironworking?
Well, the archaeological record is giving us more and more clues every day. Adichanallur, that site with the elaborate burials. Well, among all the bronze objects and pottery, they also found iron swords, daggers, spearheads, even agricultural tools like hoes.
So it wasn't just for warfare. They were using it for everyday tools, to farm, to craft. That suggests they really had a grasp of, how to work with this metal.
Exactly. And it wasn't just Adichanallur. We're seeing evidence of ironworking at other sites along the Porunai River, too. Sivagalai, for example, has produced iron swords and other artifacts, and those date back to the 2nd millennium BCE.
So this wasn't some isolated phenomenon. Ironworking was like a well-established practice throughout the entire region, and it's pushing the timeline back further and further.
It is. And then there's Telangannur, a site that has provided perhaps the most stunning evidence of their metallurgical skill.
Okay, Telangannur. Remind me what makes this site so special.
At Telangannur, they unearthed this iron sword that has really caused quite a stir in the scientific community. It dates back to the 13th century BCE, and it's made of something called woot steel.
Woot steel. The stuff of legends. I remember reading about this. Didn't they use woot steel to make those incredibly strong and sharp Damascus steel swords?
That's right. Damascus steel swords were legendary for their durability and beauty. And what makes the Telangannur sword so remarkable is that it's one of the earliest known examples of crucible steel production anywhere in the world.
So not only were they working with iron, but they had also developed this sophisticated process for creating like high-quality steel.
Yes.
Centuries before anyone else.
Exactly. This discovery suggests that not only were they forging iron in Tamil Nadu during this period, but they had also developed these incredibly sophisticated techniques for creating high-quality steel, possibly even predating similar advancements in other parts of the world.
This is mind-blowing. It completely changes our understanding of the history of metallurgy. It seems like the Porunai River civilization was at the forefront of this technological innovation.
That's the picture that's emerging, and it's incredibly exciting. The discovery of iron and steel production in Tamil Nadu during the 3rd and 2nd millennia BCE has opened up a whole new avenue of research. It's challenging these long-held assumptions and forcing us to really rethink the story of how iron technology developed and spread around the world.
It's like we've stumbled upon a hidden chapter in history. But hold on, there's something else here that's caught my eye. One of these sources mentions that there's actually some confusion about the Porunai River itself. Something about there being two rivers with the same name.
Ah, yes. You're right. There's been a bit of a historical mix-up when it comes to the Porunai River.
Okay, this sounds intriguing. What's the story here?
Well, it turns out that in some of the ancient Tamil literature, the Porunai they're referring to isn't actually the river we've been talking about. They're talking about a different river, also called Porunai, but this one's located in present-day Kerala.
Wait, so there are two rivers with the same name, and they're in different parts of South India? That sounds like a recipe for confusion.
It certainly is, and it's led to some debate among scholars about which Porunai is the one that's truly associated with the civilization we're discussing.
So how do we solve this river riddle? How do we know which Porunai is the right one when we're reading these ancient texts?
Well, luckily, the sources provide some clues. The key is to look closely at how the river is referenced and to understand the historical context.
All right, detective, let's crack this case. What are the clues?
Well, one of the first clues comes from a commentator on a very old Tamil grammar text. And he lists several rivers, including the Kaveri, the Vaigai, and then he mentions two separate Porunai rivers. One he calls Than Porunai, and the other he calls An Porunai.
Okay, so he's clearly distinguishing between the two rivers.
Yeah.
But what does that tell us?
Well, that prefix then is really important. In Tamil, it's often used to indicate something that is one's own or belonging to.
So Than Porunai would basically mean our Porunai, or the Porunai belonging to this region. That seems like a pretty strong indication that the river in southern Tamil Nadu, the one we've been discussing, is the one that's, truly connected to this civilization.
It is, and we have further confirmation from other historical sources. Emperor Ashoka, in one of his edicts, actually refers to the river in southern Tamil Nadu as Thampani.
Another point for Than Porunai. And if I'm not mistaken, the Purananoru, one of the major works of Sangam literature, also places the Than Porunai within the context of the Porunai River civilization.
You're absolutely right. The Purananoru has these beautiful descriptions of life along the river, clearly associating it with the people and places we've been discussing.
So while there might be two rivers named Porunai, it seems pretty clear from the evidence that the Than Porunai, the river flowing through southern Tamil Nadu, is the one that's truly at the heart of this civilization.
Exactly. By carefully examining the context and the specific language used in these ancient texts, we can untangle this geographical confusion.
That's some impressive detective work. We've successfully navigated those tricky waters of river names and historical mix-ups. But now it's time to get back on track and explore another key aspect of the Porunai River civilization, one that has captivated historians and archaeologists for centuries.
You're talking about the mystery surrounding the introduction of iron in the Indian subcontinent, right?
You know it. The evidence we've uncovered so far suggests that the Porunai River civilization may have actually played a pivotal role in the early development and spread of iron technology.
Yeah.
And that, my friend, is a story that deserves its own deep dive.
Okay, so we've touched on the fact that iron was present in the Porunai River civilization, but there's more to it, right? What exactly makes their use of iron so groundbreaking? It boils down to this. The evidence we're seeing challenges of what we've thought about how iron technology spread. For a long time, historians thought it started in one place and then, spread out slowly from there. But what we're finding in Tamil Nadu suggests a much more complicated story.
Okay, so the old theory's out. What's the new thinking then?
Well, now there's more evidence that suggests iron tech might have developed independently in different places around the world. And the Porunai River civilization, with its iron artifacts going back to the 3rd millennium BCE, it's really at the forefront of this new understanding.
So they weren't just using iron, they were potentially some of the first people on the planet to figure out how to smelt it and make it into tools and weapons and things. That's huge.
It is. It changes how we think about ancient metallurgy, and it puts the Porunai River civilization on the map as a real center of innovation.
Okay, so we know they were using iron, and we know it was early, but what were they making with it? What kind of objects? Did they have a sophisticated understanding of how to work with it?
Well, the archaeological record is giving us more clues all the time. Adichanallur, that site with all the burials, they've found a lot of iron objects there. Swords, daggers, spearheads, even farming tools like hoes.
So not just for war then, they were using it for everyday tools, to farm their land, to make things. That means they really understood how to work with this metal, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't just at Adichanallur. We're seeing evidence of ironworking at other sites along the river too. Sivagalai, for instance, has iron swords and other artifacts, and those go back to the 2nd millennium BCE.
So this wasn't just a one-off thing. It was a common practice all over the region. And we're talking about a really long time ago.
That's right. And then you have Thalunganur, a site that has maybe the most impressive evidence of their metalworking skills.
Thalunganur, okay. Remind me, what's so special about that site?
Well, at Thalunganur, they found an iron sword that has really shaken things up in archaeology. It's from the 13th century BCE, and it's made of something called wootz steel.
Wootz steel. Like the legendary stuff. Yeah, I read about that. They use wootz steel to make those super strong and sharp Damascus steel swords, right?
You got it. Damascus steel swords were known for how strong and beautiful they were. And what's crazy is that the Thalunganur sword is one of the oldest examples of crucible steel in the world.
Hold on. So not only were they working with iron, but they figured out this really advanced way to make high-quality steel way before anyone else.
Exactly. This means that they weren't just making iron in Tamil Nadu during this time, they were making incredibly high-quality steel. And they might have even been doing it before other parts of the world.
This is just, it blows my mind. This really changes how we see the history of metalworking. It seems like the Porunai River civilization was really leading the way in all this innovation.
That's what we're seeing, and it's really exciting. Discovering iron and steel production in Tamil Nadu back in the 3rd and 2nd millennia BCE has just opened up a whole new area of research. It's challenging old ideas and forcing us to rethink how iron tech developed and spread all over the world.
This is like finding a whole missing piece of history. Wow. You know, all these discoveries have been fascinating. These people were incredible craftspeople, traders, city builders, and now it looks like master metalworkers too.
Yeah.
I guess I'm wondering, like, what does all this mean for how we understand history? Where do we even go from here?
Well, what we've talked about today is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more to learn. Maybe future research will focus on exactly how they smelted and worked with iron, how that knowledge spread, and how all of this impacted their whole society.
It feels like we've just, started to explore this. Every answer seems to lead to even more questions.
Well, that's the great thing about archaeology and history. It's a never-ending journey of discovery. And who knows, maybe the next big discovery will come from you. After all, you're the one who brought us these amazing sources.
That's true. This deep dive has really just given us a taste of what's out there. There's so much more to discover in these research papers and articles. And if you're as fascinated by the Porunai River civilization as we are, keep exploring. Keep asking those questions. Keep learning. Who knows what other secrets you'll uncover?